here from Total Wellness Health Coaching and this YouTube channel, Functional Medicine Living. And I have something special for you today. At least I hope it's special. I hope it's good. So I got an email this week from, I think it was the Find Me Gluten Free app people. I get emails from them periodically, and they'll have a sponsor and they'll be sharing about their sponsor. And I usually just delete. But this one caught my eye because what they were advertising were these crescent rolls. So it is almost Thanksgiving when I'm filming this, and hopefully I'll get this out to you before then, or at least maybe by Christmas time. But they had a picture of these crescent rolls, and that really caught my eye because we always had those Pillsbury crescent rolls for Thanksgiving. I'm sure many of you did as well. And so I was like, let me go check this out. This is Mom's Place Gluten Free, established in 2013. Maybe this is old news to you, but it was new news to me. I'd never heard of this company. And there was a discount coupon code, which if that's still available, I will link that down below. But I went over looking for these crescent rolls, and they say on here we offer over 100 gluten-free products made in a dedicated gluten-free facility. It's all gluten-free. So I don't like to bring any gluten in my house, honestly. I just don't want the potential for cross-contamination. So I'm careful about packaged products, and I'm happy to know that this is actually made in a gluten-free facility. So I found the crescent rolls. I bought 2 packages of them so that I could try it out before Thanksgiving to see if we want this for Thanksgiving. But then I went shopping, and let me just show you what I got. So this is, I can't believe it's not wheat bread, so a bread mix. Let's see, here's another bread. This is French bread. And then we got soft pretzels and classic pizza dough, classic beignets, which are, like a donut, mini vanilla donuts with a vanilla glaze, funnel cakes, corn dogs, or cheese sticks. I guess you could bread your mozzarella cheese. And then they have these soups, which I was super intrigued by for, casseroles and things. We have cream of celery soup, onion soup mix, cream of mushroom soup, and cream of chicken soup. I was just thinking about that, like the onion dip with Ruffles potato chips or Fritos. I mean, y'all, super unhealthy stuff, and I haven't had that in years and years, but I loved it, and so I just couldn't help but give this a try. Mix 1 tablespoon of this onion mix with 1 pint of sour cream. Oh, and so this would last a really long time. And most of these things, the ingredients are, they all, I haven't looked at quite all of them, but most have a little bit of xanthan gum. They're usually rice flour, brown rice flour or white rice flour, some tapioca, some sorghum, a little bit of sugar, salt, yeast. It's just basic, these basic gluten-free flours, potato starch. But what is nice about these is, no, it's a mix, it's pre-measured, and they're telling you this is what you add to it and this is how you make it. So I do a lot of from-scratch baking. As you know, I've shown you a lot of that, paleo bagels and all that kind of stuff. And that's wonderful, and that's what's best for my body. But sometimes it's nice to just have these mixes to do something kind of fast, usually for the kids, or they're having friends over. They don't want to have, we have this special diet, right? So if I can make them soft pretzels, and these gluten-free things these days taste really good. I mean, certainly a non-discerning teenager is not going to tell the difference between this gluten-free pretzel and a gluten-filled pretzel, because they're just hungry, they're just eating, they're going to dip it in mustard or cheese sauce or whatever and go about their day. So I can get away with this kind of stuff for the teenagers really well, and that way my kids are not feeling weird, but yet I'm not bringing gluten into my house, which makes me happy. So anyway, I wanted to tell you about this company. Haven't tried anything yet. This is my first one, so I'm making my test package of the crescent rolls, and I just thought I would show you the process so you can see. Let me turn the oven off. I just turned my oven on 200 so it would be warming up so I could have my dough rising in there. And I have gotten started a little bit. So I needed to add 1/4 cup of cold water, 3/4 cup of cold milk, any kind of milk. So you can make this dairy free if you wanted, because there's no dairy in the ingredients, in the dry ingredients. 1/2 cup of frozen butter or butter substitute, and then 2 eggs. And so here I have the water, the milk, and the eggs, and I've just whisked them together. And the package was the flours, and then there was a yeast packet, and so I put the yeast in with the flour. This is what I was supposed to do. I grated the butter. So this morning I I buy that Kerrygold butter, which it's a full cup per stick. So I cut that in half and I put it in the freezer, and it's been in the freezer since like 9 o'clock this morning. It's 3 o'clock now. So it was really easy to grate with a cheese grater, and then I just mixed that in. And I've whisked these things together. Now it says add half of the milk egg mixture to the roll mix and mix only until combined. So half of the milk, and then we're going to add the other half. So we don't want to over mix. We're being somewhat gentle with it. And then we're going to use some gluten-free flour on parchment paper and make our dough ball and roll it out. So that's why I have my parchment, and then I have my King Arthur flour. So we're just mixing until it's combined. When I first looked at the package, I was like, oh, it has to be ice cold water and it has to be frozen butter. I thought these are going to be super... I don't know, I'm smelling it. It smells like baked goods. I was thinking this is going to be super complicated ingredients, and who wants that, right? So we're not quite all mixed together yet, but close. So you know, like a croissant or a crescent roll, it's flaky. That's because of the butter in there. And so I get why they're telling us to mix gently and not over mix. Sorry, I keep turning around. Not over mix. So I just want to sprinkle a little of this flour on my parchment. I'm just reading my instructions here. Y'all, I hurt my shoulder, and I can't lift things up with that right arm like I should be able to. So this is, my dough has barely even come together here, but I'm trying to be real gentle with the dough. Sprinkle, it said 1/4 of a cup. I didn't use quite that much. Onto parchment, take dough, it will be sticky. Create a ball using flour from the parchment to coat the dough ball. This parchment is just sticking, or not sticking. I'd rather it be sticking. Of course, I didn't need to use parchment. I could have just put this right out on my counter. What does it say? Sprinkle a little more gluten-free flour onto the surface. Roll with a rolling pin into a big circle. So it is a little bit sticky. It just says roll into a big circle. It doesn't say, okay, 1/4 of an inch thick. So I don't know, cameraman, if you can zoom in, and we can see, I can see the pieces of butter in here. So definitely grating the butter, having it really cold, I think is doing what they're wanting that to do in the dough. So it'll, as it bakes, it'll be flaky. This parchment rolling around on me is really driving me bananas. It's sticking over there, and we put a little bit more. Is anybody else circle challenged when you're trying to roll out dough? I feel like it's so hard to get it actually into a circle if you're rolling it out. You can pat it and make it a circle a lot easier. That feels and looks to me like about 1/4 of an inch. Now what do we do? Using a pizza cutter, cut the dough into 12 to 16 slices. So you have to understand what they're saying. Let me wash. So far, this is the only fault I have found with this with the instructions is that I think if you weren't really thinking about it, you wouldn't really know what they meant. But because you're making a crescent, you're going to want to, oh boy, that I did not do that in half, did I? Oh well, some will be bigger than the others. You want to cut triangles. So we're going to do 16. I will say the dough was really nice and soft. It was very easy to work with. I told you when I first looked at the recipe, I thought, it's going to be complicated. It was not complicated. And you have seen that it has not taken me a long time. So we're going to roll them. We're going to place them 2 inches apart on a baking sheet in a warm place until they have close to double. So you're just going to roll it up. Okay, so they've stuck a little bit, but I did not put as much flour down as I think they were wanting me to. Getting the first one out there is always the hardest. So you can be fancy and kind of curl them around. Because I did a terrible job of cutting them, some of mine are going to be bigger than others, but that's quite all right. So I'm just going to finish this process, and then I'm going to put them in my oven and let them double, and then I'll bake them at 350 for 12 to 16 minutes until golden, brushing them with butter, and I will show you the finished result and let you know how they taste. All right, everybody, so my croissants have been in the oven. So I turned my oven on 200, which is as low as mine goes, and then I turned it off. So as soon as it got up to 200, I turned it off. And then I was making the dough, and so it, it cooled down. And I noticed when I checked on them, so I did a bunch of things. Took my daughter to work. I just took a really nice long walk because it's beautiful outside. But I noticed that some of the butter was leaking out of the dough. Which if you've watched Great British Baking Show, they talk about that, and you just basically didn't prepare your dough properly if the butter leaked out. But anyway, I followed the instructions to the letter, and that's what happened. Now my instructions also said to melt a couple tablespoons of butter and brush the tops before baking. But I have this butter that kind of leaked out, so I'm just, as you were watching me, I'm just using my fingers and kind of putting that butter on top. So they did rise nicely. I'm excited to see those. They're going to bake at 350 for about 12 to 16 minutes or until golden. And I'll come back and show them to you all baked up and let you know how they taste. Alrighty, so here are my finished crescent rolls. Aren't they beautiful? I mean, they really are a pretty bread. Nice and like golden brown on the bottom, golden brown on top. Now I was waiting for them to turn this color, and the instructions were 12 to 16 minutes. I baked mine for like almost 25 minutes to get them this doneness. I broke this one open and I tasted it, and it was done in the middle at 16, but I felt like it really needed a few more just to be done. Then of course I wanted it to look like this on top. I had a batch of my sourdough scones in the oven. That's one of my one of my tips or tricks for cooking. Like if you don't really love cooking, or you really need to be cooking so that your week is easier, but you don't really want to get in the kitchen and do stuff, just while you have stuff out, while you're already making a mess, while the oven's already on, just make more than one thing. So I am in a habit of feeding my sourdough starter on Saturdays. I'll get it out of the fridge in the morning, I'll feed it, and then by mid-afternoon it's alive and bubbly and happy, and I can use it to make something. Last week I made biscuits, this week I made scones, and that way we have those for my family to eat for breakfast all throughout the week. So anyway, I was just pulling my scones out of the oven. I'll show those to you actually for a little update. Okay, I was expecting like stretchy, you know, like a croissant. Even the, I mean like a really good real French croissant, or even the Pillsbury Crescent Rolls, they have that sort of stretchiness to them. These do not, but of course that's gluten, and we don't have gluten. These are more of a almost biscuit texture, not as crumbly as a biscuit, but more of that type flavor. I will say, if I were making these, let me see what's in here. Yeah. Salt is the last ingredient. They need a little salt. Your baking always needs salt. I think this mix needed a little bit more salt. So it needed a longer baking time and it needs a little bit more salt. But what a great blank canvas. They have a little bit of a sweet flavor. There is some added sugar. Would be great with just butter or jelly, you know, to stick on your Thanksgiving table. Stick doesn't sound nice. To place on your Thanksgiving table. These are delicious, and I think your gluten-eating family would not be mad if this was the crescent roll. It might not be exactly what they were expecting, but it is very tasty and it smells amazing. You get that delicious fresh baked bread smell in your house. So I think this was like less than $4. It was around, all of these mixes were in that $2 to $3 range. I think these soups were like $1.97 or something. Really, really inexpensive, which they should be. Honestly, it's mostly like rice flour and that kind of stuff, those are not super expensive ingredients. But if you go to your grocery store and you buy, well, you're not going to find a funnel cake mix, but you know, a gluten-free cake mix, you're probably paying $4 or $5 minimum, and that's like Aldi prices. So, anywho, very happy with this. Look, it's a lot of them. This 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, I made 16. That's right, because I made the circle and cut it into 16. And this was one of the big ones. This was one of the small ones. I could have easily made more small ones. We could have probably gotten 24 out of it because, you know, Thanksgiving, you have all that other great food, so you don't really need a big roll. Anyway, so far I endorse this one. I will give you updates on the others as I make them. And again, I'll link to Mom's Gluten Free in the description below, and if I can find that coupon code and it's still good, I will give you that. And let me show you my scones. So I've been making these gluten-free sourdough scones for a while, and just, you know, when I create a new recipe, or this was sort of a copycat from Lisa at Farmhouse on Boone, I'll follow the original recipe to a T, or I will maybe be more detailed in the process at the beginning, because I'm trying to write up a recipe for you with really specific instructions. And you know, a traditional scone, I think they are often this way in England. In the US, we tend to make them in the triangles. So that's what I have done. I've padded them into a circle, cut them into triangles. Well, as I progress making the recipe, I just try to make my life simpler. So this one, I didn't even follow the recipe exactly because I wanted to use more of my sourdough. The original recipe only uses half a cup, so I wanted to use more. So I used a little bit more. I did not let them rise, which you're not rise, but you're supposed to let the dough rest. I did not do that. And you can see I did not pat them into a circle and cut them and go through all that. I just scooped them with my big scooper. These are called dishers. And a little bit of water in here. I just washed it and then baked them. And so they baked just fine. They're perfect. They're super hot. Since I had just made them, I thought I'd give you a little update. You need to feel free, I think, to experiment a little bit in the kitchen. Don't be like stuffy about it. The first time you make something, okay, maybe follow the instructions to a T, but then, you know, make it your own. If you feel like it's a little too fussy, you can probably combine steps. Like, you don't even have to have a separate bowl for your liquid ingredients and your dry ingredients. Just put your dry in, mix them all up, scoot it all out to the side. So it's called making a well, or making like a empty spot in the center of your bowl. Dump all your liquid in there and just start mixing it in. Be less fussy if that that makes your life easier. And, you know, it's less dirty dishes that way. That definitely makes your life easier. Thank you for watching today, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and like and share. And that helps to spread the message that good food can be good for you. All right, have a great day, everybody, and I will see you next time.